So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's, I should have put an S there, Top Togs webinar. Hi, Emily. Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Hi, Jay. Hi, Jay. Thank you for having us.
You kept me hanging and I was a little bit worried. There's always that, I knew you were there. We've been chatting. And it's just that delay, isn't it? That slight delay. Emily, I'm not going to say, this is not your first time with us, but Hannah it is. So, welcome. Great to have
Thank you very
the
much.
two of you with us. Emily, always a pleasure to have you back with us. How long have you guys been working together then?
So Hannah originally started mentoring with me about 10 years ago. And then
I was such a big success that the day I met Emily, I said, now that I've met you and been here, I'm never leaving, and I always keep a promise.
but in the training barn, we've probably worked for the last 5 years together.
Excellent. Okay, well, it's nice to have you with us anyway, both, but great to have you back, Em, and great to have you with us for the first time, Hannah. I'm not sure, well, I think it also might say something. Did you take each other's pictures that we're seeing on the screen at the moment? Because...
No, we didn't. It was the fabulous Stuart Cooper photography.
Oh, okay, I was just going to say, because Emily, if you had taken that, it's slightly out of focus, love, just in case you didn't realise. Excellent. No, brilliant.
That's why I like it, Jake. I like to be out of focus.
I love it. I can't remember. Mark's got a term for it, but I can't remember it. It's distorted blur, isn't it, or something like that? Artistic blur, or something like that. I think is.
There you go.
It's brilliant. I know you're going to tell the guys a little bit more about you guys in the presentation, so we won't. And I know you've also got an incredible offer for the guys that you're going to talk about as well. Let me give you the screen so we know we can see your presentation clearly. So that should be coming over to the two of you now. Brilliant. I can see that full screen. I can hear you loud and clear. So I will go quiet, but any questions that you have for Emily and Hannah, please pop them through the question panel, guys. And Emily and Hannah, anything you want, if you want to pause and just check in with me, you feel free to do so. It's all yours.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Jay, for having us. I'm delighted to be back here. I have to say, Jay was saying it's probably been over a year now since we did a webinar together. So tonight we're going to talk about the Secret 7, our tried and tested tips to turbocharge your equine photography business. So very quickly, just going to introduce ourselves. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm Emily Hancock, and I've achieved 2 fellowships with the British Institute of Professional Photography. I've owned a successful equine photography business for over 20 years. I've been training other photographers for more than 10 years now, and 8 years I've been creating equine art and selling it around the world and exhibiting it globally. Hannah Freeland, ABIPP, she's achieved her associateship with the British Institute of Professional Photographers, and she's created and developed a hugely successful equine photography business. She's been a trainer for over 5 years with the training barn, and she flies all around the world for the highest end commissions. She has a highly regarded client list, and honestly, she's not booked months in advance. She's almost booked for the entire of 2020 now. So we're going to move straight on and talk to you about how our businesses have thrived over the last 20 years. And one of the biggest things we come across with photographers is mindset. And it's really impacted the way both of how successful our businesses have been. Now, having a positive mental attitude sounds, you hear it all the time, right? And obviously it's big in the news at the moment, but in actual fact, it has a huge impact on how successful your business is, because as creative people, we go through a variety of emotions all the time. Our work is very personal to us, so every bit of critique we get, every knockback we have, we take it so personally. And I know both Hannah and I have been victim to falling into that negative attitude where honestly, there's times where even now, I'll go to my mum or my husband. I go, I need to get a normal job. I just can't cope anymore. And then they listen to me and they give me 24 hours. And usually I'll start looking for another job. And then I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to stay as a photographer. I'm over it now. That's it. And you know, you've got to remain positive, because the photography industry is hard, right? You've got to get your head down, you've got to work hard, and you will have knockbacks, but the more you can be positive, the better. Opportunities come along all the time, but quite often if we haven't got that positive attitude on us, we won't see them. And it's important that with opportunities that come along, that you are very savvy about how you use them for your business. So it might be that you have the opportunity to photograph some beautiful black Frisian horses, for example. This is a black Frisian, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but fear might hold you back, and you think, well, I'm not ready to do that yet because I haven't got this, that, and the other in place. And so actually what happens is that you let your emotions take over, and you stop those opportunities happening for your business that could be really, really beneficial, because of fear. And so it's important, again, that you start to understand and listen to that voice in your head and work out whether it's just emotion talking or whether it's actually real.
I think a lot of photographers as well can get stuck in the negative mindset, and you've just got to remember that while you're stuck in that negative mindset, all these wonderful opportunities are passing you by because you're not prepared to see them and say yes. And what happens with that is that your clients feed off it as well. So if you've got a positive attitude and your clients give you an opportunity to photograph an amazing black Frisian horse, they need to feed off of your positivity. If a client rings up and feels that you've got fear or maybe negative attitude, they're going to go to the next photographer who's going to make them feel wonderful and excited about the photo shoot.
So niching down is one of the things both Hannah and I have done. So obviously equine photography is a niche area of photography. You know, the market is not the same as the wedding photography market. It is much smaller. However, there are horses in every corner of the world, and there are a lot of horse owners, and there are not a lot of equine photographers, not specialist equine photographers. There are a handful of people that do a bit of equine photography alongside wedding photography, baby photography, etc., etc. But there are not very many true specialist equine photographers. So when we talk about niching down, we're actually talking about finding your passion within the equine market. So we might be talking about horses that specifically are bred for showing, or bred for dressage, or bred for show jumping, or they're racing, or they do pony club or eventing, or I could go on, there's so many, vaulting, carriage
show
driving, yeah, tons and tons. So you want to experiment within the equine market and see where your passion lies. Do you love the show jumping world? Do you love the pony club world? And think about becoming a specialist in that area. So
the more passion you can show to your target audience, the more they're going to join you in that passion and book you, because you will talk the same language as them and they'll feed straight into that.
But also, I certainly started my business in the dressage market, and it was easy. I say easy for me, it wasn't easy. I worked really hard to get into the dressage market, but I did actually own my own dressage horse. And so I had a springboard, a couple of people that I knew that I used to compete alongside that I could then use for my portfolio and then springboard into the dressage market. And
I did exactly the same. My best friend is an event rider, and I used to join him on every event that he went to, and I would take all the behind the scenes shots, and I just used those connections to build my eventing. Now, I wasn't an event photographer. I worked for event riders. But again, I used my network of event riders to grow that specific area.
So it's interesting because actually, although I'm a very well-known equine photographer within the dressage market, no one would know me in the racing market. There are other photographers that specialize in that. But also what we're talking about when specializing is, are you going to specialize in being producing only black and white images, or are you going to produce high key images, or are you only going to photograph horses by themselves at liberty? So you find your passion. And then we're talking about niching down further. So once you really get your style, is it going to be a standout style that makes you a specialist and therefore an expert in your fine niche?
A huge thing that changed my business was understanding the difference between finding clients who would say, I need an equine photographer, to finding the right clients who would find my specialized area, saw that I was an expert in it, and therefore would say, I need to book a shoot with Hannah Freeland. So it didn't matter how many equine photographers, fell over their doorstep. They wanted Hannah Freeland photography because I made sure that my expertise and my passion was right in front of them.
So I'd ask all of you guys to just think about that. Think about your business and your photography. Have you niched down into a very specific area? And just look at your business at the moment as it is and see, are you photographing things that maybe you don't want to, or, you don't enjoy as much as other areas? Is there a specific niche that you'd like to hone in on? Okay, so many photographers that come to us for training, the biggest thing they miss out on is shooting. Shoot. Honestly, you have to be shooting more than you're doing anything else, particularly at the start of your career as a photographer and a creative. One, it builds your confidence. The more you shoot, the more, and particularly with horses, right? Depending on whether you're a horsey person or not, horses are really unpredictable. Both Hannah and I, can turn up to any photo shoot and we do not know how it is going to pan out. We may have 5 minutes with a horse, we may have 2 hours with a horse. Yeah. There's been many a time Hannah and I have turned up to a yard and the horse is
on its toes.
Yeah, on its toes. Sparky, yeah. Ready to disappear, and the owner is not comfortable handling it for more than 5 or 10 minutes out in the open, right? And so you have to think quickly and on your feet, and
some of those can't be even predicted. I've had one where the mare escaped the morning of her photo shoot, went into the feed room and ate 8 buckets of feed, and most of them were full of oats. And so as much as I prepared for the shoot and the client had prepared for the shoot, it was a different game on the day of the actual shoot. But we made it work because I had the experience and the knowledge and the confidence of the structure.
And for anyone who doesn't know horses, that horse is going to have had a sore tummy.
Yeah. She needed to run it off.
Much like if we'd eaten 8 buckets
of sugar.
Yeah. So building your confidence, as photographers, we all terribly lack confidence most of the time. I mean, okay, Hannah and I are quite confident.
Well, we are now, but you can't.
It's taken years.
And maybe harsh reality, guys, but you cannot grow your confidence in your studio.
No.
Or in front of your screen. It won't happen.
But on top of that, you are building a portfolio. So the more you shoot, the more horses you're going to have in your portfolio, the more different kinds of breeds you're going to come across. You might photograph a Shetland to a Shire to a Arabian horse. You might photograph multiple horses, but unless you're out there shooting, your portfolio is going to take a long time to build.
Yeah. And I think this is where you can really narrow down your passion. The more you shoot, the more you'll realise what you're really enjoying.
And on top of that, your style will develop. And then, of course, that feeds back into your confidence. which of course feeds back into clients being confident in what you're going to produce. You again come across so many different experiences. I quite funnily of a shot very similar to this actually, but we had another horse and we had a husband and we had an extra dog, and we got this beautiful shot much like the one here, and the second after one of the horses barged into the husband, he tripped over the dog, the other horse leapt sideways by about 10 foot, pulling the wife over, dragging her along the ground. Now, of course, as a photographer, I kept shooting, obviously. But, you know, stuff like that, you just build a bank of experience. And again, that feeds back into your confidence. And on top of that, every time you go out shooting, you are meeting another person that has a network of other horsey friends. And the more people you can come in contact with, the more, and of course you have to give them the best service, the 5-star business. For anyone who knows us, we talk a lot about getting your ducks in a row and being that 5-star business. And if you give your models that service, they will happily tell their entire network of horsey friends all about this fabulous photo shoot they had. Okay, so going pro, here it is. I'm just going to tell you, the little girl in the picture is mine. This is one of Hannah's photos. And we have this gorgeous 30-year-old pony that Hetty had from when she was 2 years old. And she unfortunately had to go to Pony Heaven not that long ago. No. But this is such a treasured image for me.
Thank goodness we did the shoot.
Yeah, we did the shoot. But you know, horsey people, just for you guys that maybe don't know horses, horsey people treat their horses like extra children. Yeah. And Meg here, the pony that we had, only for a couple of years, but she was part of our family. And so we as horsey people who own horses and are great clients, because they are just like our children, and so more often than not they're prepared to invest money in photography. So when we talk about going pro, again, you need to look at your business and see whereabouts in your business you need to go pro. Are you professional answering your emails? Are your photo shoots professional? Are you turning up with a clean car and a smart outfit on? Have you got all your kit? Are you doing a professional job at showing the images to your clients? Do they understand the whole process? And when we say details, we're talking about all those finer details.
I think one of the greatest challenges Emily ever gave me was to, when I said I wanted to be, you know, exclusive and 5-star luxury service, she said, right, write down from start to finish every time you would connect with your client, from meeting them maybe at a show or over the phone to delivering their images and sending them a thank you card. And as I wrote it down, she challenged me to write down a better way of doing it that would make me more professional or 5-star or more luxury. And it's amazing that you can just change an email into a handwritten letter, or, you know, something that goes in a cardboard box could have tissue around it first. And it's those sort of details that take you into a professional professional business, 5-star.
And thinking about language, the language you use. Now, again, if you're not horsey, you need to think about the lingo that horsey people use. You don't want to turn up at a yard and say, oh, can you put those leather things on it? You know, you need to know that it's called a bridle and a head collar, and the tack needs cleaning. And
horsey people get very, horsey people would always talk about their horses, but we also get quite precious about, you know, if you call a horse a donkey, it can go down quite badly.
Yeah. So, but also think about the language. We had this one delegate training client that said she just was showing her, said to her client that the images were ready, and she said, for the first time ever, I said, I know you're going to love these images, instead of, I hope you like the photos. And you just change a small tweak in language like that can make all the difference to your client.
You need to be telling your clients that you know what you're doing, you are in charge, and you're confident about what you're producing. And by using words like "I know" and "you'll love" and "you'll be so excited," rather than "I hope" and "maybe" and "well, we'll see," because they'll just start questioning what you have captured.
And suppliers, making sure you're going pro with your suppliers. Have you checked out who does the best frames, who does the best albums? Have you checked out the paper stock? Are you making sure that you're using companies that the public can't access? So have you signed up with suppliers that only deal with professional photographers?
I would also challenge you all to test their customer services as well, because if you ever need a supplier to get you out of the muck heap, then you need to test that with them. So if you've got a late delivery, you're going to make me giggle. If you've got a late delivery and you need to get something to a client, let's say within 5 days, test your current suppliers on whether they could actually turn that around for you. And that will make sure you're with the most professional.
And online presence now is absolutely huge. You need to be visible and you need to go pro with it. You cannot be inconsistent with your online presence. First of all, your website has to be beautiful. Now, it's not their first port of call. It's not horsey people are not sat at their computer desks tapping in horse photographer.
No.
Okay, they're outside with their horses all day. So the website, albeit it's not the first port of call, it does need to be beautiful. It needs to be professional. It needs to be up to date. I know we're all guilty of leaving our portfolios for 20 years. But I think
all your blogs.
Yeah, all your blogs.
Don't read mine.
But I think things have moved on now, and websites are much easier to update. Social media channels need to be consistent, and you need to really show value.
One of the most important things you guys can do with your online presence is show your professional side. So as nice as it is to show your personal life, you know, your dog's done something cute or what you're going to have for dinner, you have to remember, what does my next top client actually want to see on my Instagram? Are they going to care about what you're eating for dinner? Or maybe they care way more about you found the most beautiful autumn light and how you're going to use it in your next photo shoot, because that inspires your clients. So that's another point of being professional, is that you should only be posting professional comments and posts on your business platforms.
And again, with online platforms, you need to make sure, if any of you guys have decided you want to be an equine photographer, full stop, you don't want to do other photography, you need to make sure that the message is very clear to anyone looking. So if I log on to your Facebook page, can I, within 3 seconds, tell that you are a 5-star equine photographer?
And what you're going to produce. It needs to be consistent. The images that you're producing, they need to be able to go onto there and think, right, that's what I'm going to receive.
But even better, can I go on and say, wow, that photographer is obviously the person to go to if I want my dressage horse photographed in black and white, and I want moody pictures of me and my horse, right? So are you showing them very clearly who you are and what you do within 3 seconds? And I'm pretty sure most of you, you would say you could probably do a bit better with that. Now, for those guys who want to continue doing equine photography alongside other genres, maybe weddings and babies or whatever, we get the question quite a lot. Should I have separate websites? Should I merge them? It's quite a tricky one. Years ago, I split my websites. I had weddings, I had equine, and I had family and lifestyle. And what I found was that I was then essentially running 3 separate businesses. I was having to keep up with 3 blogs, 3 social media platforms for each section, and it was a bit of a nightmare, if I'm honest. So what I would recommend nowadays is that you make sure, well, keep one website and then have your focus what you love most, what you want to photograph the most as the front. And then if you want to do weddings or families or anything else, then you keep that as back pages. Now, the other thing to note is that although many years ago when I went solely over to equine photography on my website, I actually still to this day get inquiries to photograph weddings, families, babies, commercial. I get inquiries for everything, and I have not promoted any of that for years and years and years. But it's important that you guys really focus in on your online presence.
And remember not to post any work that you don't want more of.
Yes. Okay, so walk the walk. Now, we talk about being 5-star a lot because the equine market, the target market, if you own a horse, you have some extra cash, right? Because horses are expensive to keep. Whichever way you look at it, they need feeding, they need shelter, they need
shoeing, tack, rugs, head collars. I'm currently buying all a new wardrobe for my horse.
So they cost a lot of money, right? So the equine market, we already know they're qualified as far as having extra money over and above their normal bills. Now, there's a percent. Now, that market, of course, spans low and high, and there's lots in between, right? But the people we're aiming at are people that want to spend extra on photography.
They have to value photography. They can't just have money and have a horse, because you actually get a lot further by having someone who truly values photography and their horse and saves up for their shoot.
Yes, and so when we talk about being 5-star, this is because 20 years ago, I decided that I wanted to be a high-end exclusive photographer. But also, as I got into the industry and started photographing people with horses, is that I realized that they are very used to having 5-star services around them. They like to, even picking a saddle, right? Saddles can cost anything up to about £5,000, depending on what brand you're going for, and they're going to be handmade, and the stuffing inside them is stuffed exactly the way your horse's back is, shaped. And these horsey people are used to 5-star service.
Also, if you're going to be in business and your own business, why not be 5-star?
Yeah.
Why be 3-star?
But also, we've worked out that actually, instead of doing 100 photo shoots a year for £100,000, we want to do 30 shoots a year for £100,000, right? So we want to do, it's not really less work in actual fact, because when you become a 5-star business, all the trimmings and the details take that extra time. But actually, it is about photographing a little bit less, but giving a higher quality service all round. So when we talk about being 5-star, we do things that 5-star businesses would do.
So, for example, when you turn up to a photo shoot, I want you to write down the things that you could improve upon. So if you want to be a 5-star photographer, what does that mean? Does that mean that your car is cleaned, that your boots are clean, that you have the address and gate code of your client, you're 10 minutes early, you've got a lead rope in the back of your car, which ensures that if her lead rope breaks or she's got a bright red lead rope and you've suggested a black one, that you can say, don't worry, I've got that in the back of my car. If you can think of all the things, you've got some treats for the horses, and then you've got templated emails as soon as you get back to the studio that says, I had such a wonderful day with you today. Let's book in your private viewing. We discussed this date already. Is that date still okay? This is being 5-star. So if you can write down all those things that you want to be, look at that list, and then whatever you do, if you do nothing else, you do that list. Because if you do those 5-star jobs, you become a 5-star photographer, and then you have a 5-star photography business.
Very eloquently put,
Thank
Hannah.
It's first for everything, guys.
So it's a be, do, have. What do you need to be, and go and do it, and then you will have it. So have you guys currently got 5-star businesses, or do they need working on? Well, to be honest, both Hannah and I would say we have 5-star businesses, but we are always working on being more 5-star.
Yeah, and I'd say that I was a great one all those years ago. I stood in my own way more than anyone has ever stood in their own way. And my excuse, and it was an excuse, my excuse was always, well, I can't afford to have a 5-star photography business, so I'm not going to do it. Is actually, if I thought, well, I want a printed brochure, but I can't afford to pay £1,000 for printed brochures, but I'll tell you what I will do is I'll have a beautiful digital brochure as a PDF, and it'll be the most 5-star digital brochure. And that's the thing, it doesn't have to cost the earth to be 5-star. You just have to do the best version of what you can afford.
Cool. So invest yourself 100%. Now, we have many photographers come to us in the New Forest, and they have a variety of time that they are able to dedicate. Some can dedicate a full week to working on their equine photography business. Others have come to us, they have another job, they have 3 children, they have horses themselves, and they have approximately 5 hours a week to dedicate to their equine photography business. Now, whether you're that person who's got 5 hours or 40 hours, you need to dedicate time, real time, and invest yourself 100% in your equine photography business, okay? So if you are one of those people that haven't got a lot of time in the week, but you know you desperately want this, okay, it's important that you work out where those hours are, what time in the week you can allocate those hours, and what you're going to do in those hours to build your business and move it forward.
Whatever job you decide to do in those hours, ask yourself, is this moving the business forward? Because if it's going and checking out presets for Lightroom, is that actually moving your business forward? Because that feels nice. It does feel nice to go and try out an editing style or put a new action in on Photoshop, but actually, are you doing things that are a little bit scary, you know, enough with the excuses, and you're going to move that business forward in the 4 hours that you've got?
And so in order to get that priority list for those hours you can dedicate, it's important that you really set your goals. So if you think right now, I always like to set my goals at the start of the year, then about halfway through, and then usually I'll set them again at some point, or as in when they move, because of course your goals do move. But if you think now, if you were going to set some goals between now and Christmas, and then think about setting goals at the start of the new year, what would it look like 1 year from now? What do you actually want to have achieved 1 year from now? Is it that you want to have built up your equine portfolio? Do you want to have had 10 paying equine clients? Do you want to have moved your business on so that you're now full-time in it? Do you want to create a 5-star business? Where do you want to be exactly 1 year from now? And once you get that down on paper, you can then start to handpick out the things you need to do and prioritize in order for you to get to that goal. And honestly, I'm absolutely meticulous about this, although obviously we both, Hannah and I, work full-time as photographers, so we have a lot of time to dedicate. But for those who have less time, if you've got your goals, you can then prioritize them, and you can really think about how you're going to move your business forward in that time.
It is never a coincidence that when we write down our goals or we write our business plan, we achieve it. That is not by accident.
No.
And apparently, and it's not, this is not my, because I'm not a PhD, but apparently you're 77% more likely to hit your goals just if you write them down. They don't even need to be in a beautiful business plan.
Yeah.
If you simply write them down on a piece of paper and stick it to your wall, you're 77% more likely to achieve that goal.
It gives you clarity, doesn't it? A support network is vital. Now, friends and family, of course, but on top of that, other professional photographers as a support network. We're super friendly at Equine photographers, and we would be happy to invite you into our tribe as a support network. I'm sure you guys all have professional photographers as friends, you know, but do you guys meet up for coffee? Do you bounce ideas off each other? I know there are some photographers that get scared and they don't want to share their secrets, or they're a bit shy and they don't want to put themselves out there. But in actual fact, having a support network of professional photographers is really important as well. And this is a time to get serious, right? Life only happens once, and if you want to be an equine photographer, get your head down and dedicate time, set your goals, get your support network sorted out, and get serious.
Both Emily and I agreed earlier that once we decided we wanted to be equine photographers, there was no changing our minds. And it's never even entered our minds that we just wouldn't be.
No.
We just kept plugging away at it.
Yeah. Okay, so education and mentoring. Now, I started a mentoring course many years ago now that I invested in for an entire year, and it was expensive, but do you know what? It was the best thing I ever did for myself and my business. The one thing it taught me was how to value my expertise, and it really gave me guidance. And education and mentoring comes in all sorts of ways now. We've got so many different options available to us, but it's important that you guys think about how you are going to push your business forward through education. Now, for someone like Hannah and I, we've now had 20 years, 40 years combined experience in this industry, and we have made every mistake under the sun. But the point is, for anyone just starting out, we can basically supercharge and jump you straight over all those mistakes we made and give you great advice. Now, I'm not saying that you have to come and train with us, of course not, but there are so many different education programs, even YouTube, free mentoring and education that you have access to.
Emily's always a great one for, I'll get really excited about a new piece of software and I'll download it, and within 3 or 5 seconds I'm banging my fist on the table and say, oh, it's just not doing exactly what I want it to do. And Emily will say, but did you watch the introduction video? Did you join the live webinar to help you through that? Oh, right, I'd better do that. And it's exactly the same goes for, you know, when Lightroom's really annoying you because you haven't got your catalogue set up right. All I needed to do was go to YouTube, watch the 3-minute video.
You can Google everything nowadays. But education is really important for guidance, okay, and structure, because when we invest ourselves in a business and when we invest in education and mentoring, we make sure we stick to a direction and we become accountable to whoever that is that's mentoring us. And we wanted to mention this in our 7 steps to turbocharge your business, because in actual fact, I still have mentors, and I still have creative mentors, and I still have business mentors, and they do more for my business than I could ever say.
You need someone also to call you out. If you're using excuses or fear, or do you really think that that's going to happen? Fact or feeling is something my mum always says. Is that a fact or is it a feeling?
So make sure you think about your education journey as a photographer.
So
Q&A.
So if Jay's still there.
I am absolutely still here, guys, and I can't. Do you know what? I've been grinning all the way through I've loved it. Absolutely loved it. Obviously, no offense to you, Emily. I've dealt with you before, but the two of you are fantastic. So I'm loving it. And if I could, I don't do horses. I only photograph live music, which is a completely different animal. Excuse the pun. But well, I'm thinking about it now anyway, because obviously there's some money in it for definite on that. No, I'm loving it. We have got questions for you. What I want to say though is that for those of you that already know about us, and the Academy and Experience Group, the mentality that I've heard from both, I always knew Emily had it, but this is the first time obviously I've done anything with Hannah. Everything you say is so on it. I'm here nodding all the way through the presentation, because it's so important. You know what we teach, and I know we've always been on the same wavelength, but you know, just the key thing. I've been making notes. I don't never do this. I've been making notes, but confidence. The biggest thing that we see with all of our mentoring is confidence. You've got to believe in yourself some more, and it will take your photography to a different level, and your pricing to a different level, your products to a different level, and we get, and I think you touched on it both, that we get, you know, is there still, you know, a world for portrait photography? Yeah, of course there is. And, you know, people, and what's coming back, which is phenomenal, is print. Print is back.
Yeah.
You know, this digital age that we all got sucked into is going away again, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, the art.
I think a great thing to do is, if anyone out there does have horsey friends and they're not an equine photographer yet, I challenge you to go and ask your horsey friends for your friend to name 2 equine photographers by name.
And they won't be able
They won't be able to. And then you think, right, there's and in any business in the entire world, if they heard of a gap in the market like that you could bring your passion into and make a living, they would jump on it. So that's my challenge for next week for you guys.
Well, look, let's tackle these questions. Do you know what? I wrote down a few that I thought were really important as well, but I think they're probably in the list that we've got from the guys. They're not in any particular order, so because they did come in thick and fast. Going right back to the beginning, and I think this is what David means, but maybe if I've got it wrong, he'll chip in and let me know. When you started, he's actually asked, did you go down the media road or did you go to the client? So when I think you both talked about being in the dressage and shooting the behind the scenes. So did you find that the portrait clients were coming from there? I don't think he means social media, but he might. I'm not sure.
So I started out on the event field. So I was photographing pony club, hunter trials, but I was actually working for someone else at the time. But it's very difficult going from an event photographer to transition into a portrait equine photographer, because event photography is notoriously high volume, and you know, the prints are sold for 10, 15, 20 pounds, and if you then if you sell to an equine client your £10 print from a show, and you then go and try and charge them £100 for a beautiful framed portrait, it's difficult to jump from one to the other. So when I was an event photographer for a couple of years, I was basically learning how you have to be mega quick as an equine photographer, and it was like my learning ground. So then I decided, right, I'm going to expand on what I do, and quite quickly I said goodbye to the event stuff. However, it was a great place to network and to get to know horsey people and to get to know horses.
I worked out I carved my slice out of event photography. So I didn't work on the front field for everyone. I was privately commissioned by riders to follow them at events, but I actually only worked with like Olympic team riders, because I really wanted to capture something that maybe no one had actually seen before. So I worked with Harry Mead exclusively for a couple of years, and showed the behind the scenes of his interaction with his owners and the amount of work that him and his team go into getting these horses ready. So I think you can absolutely start from the event field, but I would advise anyone to try and carve out, just still stand above the crowd and show what you're passionate about personally.
Well, it turns out, even though that was brilliant advice, and we got back to that story, that I had it completely wrong. And what David actually asked was, because I did ask him, when he referred to media, he meant what about working in the press side of things. So is that something you've done?
I've done it, but again, it was privately commissioned. So I've worked for magazines. They sent me to photograph. So I did Mary King and Emily King at home. What I did do is I sold myself as a lifestyle equine portrait photographer. So magazines started booking me because I still came back with a set of portrait shots. I didn't do lots and lots of ridden shots. I would do 20 minutes, if that, of some written work, and then I would spend an hour doing beautiful portraits, and the magazines just lapped it up, licked it up, sucked it up. They liked it.
Love it. No, perfect, brilliant. This came in quite early as well. When you were talking about the dressage, any top tips on what you should hone in on when you're photographing? Is there, for example, is it the leg positions? Is it the rider position? Are there any key things when shooting dressage?
Yeah, dressage is a tricky one because it's the equivalent of ballet, and so the wrong bend in the horse's leg, or it is going to show up in a photograph if you don't know as a photographer what that looks like. But when we talk about photographing dressage, what we mean is actually photographing dressage horses at home on private commission, right? So we don't tend to do ridden shots. Now, of course, we both know how to photograph ridden shots, but our clientele, the majority of them are all competitive. And so they go to competitions and there are event photographers there taking ridden shots for them. Now, you are right, with trotting and cantering, there's a very specific time you want to click the shutter in order to get the best movement for the horse. That is very tricky to teach over a laptop.
What I would say though is, if you wanted to niche into dressage horses, the most important thing you can take away is, if you turn up to a commission and your owner has a yard full of dressage horses, what type of pose do they want to see with their dressage horse? Because actually they're very highly trained, precious animals. So they'll want strong, dynamic, passionate images. They still want cuddly shots, but they're just going to want less of the total cuddly. They do want to see powerful images, because that's what sort of horse they've got. So you can, by choosing a discipline, it goes into the style of photography that you produce.
Brilliant. I know we didn't touch on this tonight. I know you and I have touched on this in a previous one, more on the portrait, and when we talked in the past about your fine art stuff. When you're shooting your portraits, are you ever using any kind of lighting, and if so, what?
No, I never use any light other than natural light. There was only one occasion where I had to photograph Charlotte Desjardins, the Olympic gold medalist, superstar, best rider in the world. And she said, "Can you photograph me using studio lights?" So I said yes. And then, other than that, in 20 years of photographing horses, I only ever use natural light.
Is that more is that more of a safety thing with the horses and flash and things like that than anything, or is it?
Yeah, there's definitely safety aspect there. Some insurance companies won't insure you if you use flash.
I think it comes down to your style as well. Both Emily and I like the true connection between horse and owner, and I've personally always found that if you use light, it can draw the attention of the horse away from that really lovely moment.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
So that amazing fine art, I can't, because it is a couple of years ago now. I'm sorry. So that was just, there was no lighting involved in when we shot that with you. Was that? I can't remember.
Yes, there was one.
So hang on, depends which images you're talking about, but 99.9%, there's one shot that
Aaron and Mark.
Where, did you guys film that?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So the shot right at the end where we put the horse in the lake and got him to do like a Spanish walk kick, and we had a flashlight behind him. And it started to rain, and it is a beautiful shot, I must agree. But that, so okay, so two photographs ever in my career. You reminded me.
That was a very different thing for you, and that was a very specialist thing for you, and it was great that you invited us along anyway. But I mean, I know we're talking.
And that video was all about me experimenting as a creative and pushing my work forward. So yeah, I
I think it's important to make it clear, obviously, what you're saying as a normal, even with your fine art and your 5-star photography, we're not doing it. That was an exception. It wasn't fair for me to bring it in, but I remembered it. And then obviously I was asked about lighting, because I know normally you say, no, we don't do it. But
I couldn't tell you though what the lights were. On those 2 occasions I had someone that had lighting that rigged it up for me. Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. We've got a few business related questions for you. Fairly general. Advice on cancellation fees. Do you ask for a deposit up front?
Everyone pays up front before the photo shoot. We would, in 20 years, I've never had to take someone's money that didn't have a photo shoot. Usually, if horses go lame or the weather's bad, we just postpone. We've just never come across that.
No, I've never had. I've had one client in all my years who has bought a photo shoot, lost the horse, and then gifted it to her best friend, because she knew she didn't want to ask for her money back. She wanted to gift the photo shoot to her best friend who had a horse.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I've ever. And of course, I would have given her money back if she'd asked for it, but she just wanted to use it as a gift.
It's quite. I think it's quite not strange with the horses. We experience it more with the dog photography through the experience group, but the mentality, which is obviously similar, like you said about the horses, and we don't call them the doggies, but the dog lovers. They will postpone. If the weather turns on us, they'll wait. And they're absolutely, like you said, as you said in your presentation, the animals are their children. And my other half would pay to have our dogs photographed before her actual children. And she keeps saying, Jay, you are technically a professional photographer. Why haven't you photographed the dogs? Because they get on my nerves. But they are incredibly photogenic, and I get it. And I don't want, it's just, no, I didn't want pictures of it. She goes, yeah, but you do pictures of rock stars. I went, yeah, because it pays me good money. That's why I did it.
Yeah.
But the dogs ain't going to pay me. Anyway, but no, brilliant. We always get a question like this, and I'm not going to ask you to answer it because we're all different, and you guys, have worked damn hard at being at the level that you're at. But with pricing structure, somebody's asked about pricing structures. Do you guys do? So let's give them some advice. Is it do you do packages? Do you do time? What's the sort of best advice moving forward? How do you work that way?
Okay, best advice moving forward is do not limit your clients to what they can spend with you. And by that, I mean, if you have package 1, 2, and 3, now I don't know, this may be different advice from what you give, Jay, but we certainly say, if you're doing, say, package 1, 2, and 3, you are putting a barrier on what your client is going to spend, because even if they are the high-end client, they think, right, I'm going to go for your biggest package, and that's £1,500, they potentially might have spent £2,000 or even more with you had you left it as an a la carte menu. The other thing I would say is make it simple. Do not give too many options. We have 3 or 4 frame prices, 3 or 4 combinations, albums, and high res. That's pretty much it. And the other thing is with pricing, I would recommend that you do a shoot fee that includes a product. So you actually make your shoot fee a bit higher, but you include a product with it.
And your advice is exactly the way when I brought up packages, yes, of course we do teach them in the portrait world, but our packages are actually for our promotions. A 5-star high-end portraiture is exactly like you guys, is a la carte. So to be honest, I kind of knew what the answer was, but I thought it was important. Excellent, brilliant. Right, there's a couple of, I'm gonna have to read these to make sure I get them right, because they're not that too. With regard to time management, when you book a shoot, do you also book your time into the diary for editing and viewing? Just wondering what your time management routine is like.
Yeah, 100%. I would always, so say it's a 2-hour photo shoot, I would allocate the afternoon or the following morning to do a 2-hour edit. I only ever spend the same amount of time editing as I do shooting, and then I also would allocate 2 to 3 hours for reviewing, and I would book that in. So yeah, 100% make sure you in your diary add in all the different steps and allocate time for them.
Which is why it's so important that you're not overshooting. You need to value that time. So if you shoot on a Monday and a Thursday, you've got to fit in your entire business marketing and admin, editing, private viewings, phone calls, emails, letters, everything into 3 days a week. So actually, if you're aiming to shoot 5 days a week, you just think where that 5-star business is going to go, which is why you need to value yourself so much.
Oh, brilliant. Great advice. Fantastic. Right, where am I? Right. Do you prefer to attend your photo shoots with a second person / helper to encourage the horse to look in the right direction and to support the photographer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
In my world, you would take an assistant along, or you would ask your client if they have a groom at the yard or a friend that would also want to help.
I would say it's incredibly rare to find any equine person who can't find a friend, a husband, a girlfriend, someone who can help. If you haven't got an assistant or can't afford an assistant right now, that's absolutely fine. For years, I just said to my clients, could you possibly ask a friend to come to the yard just to make everything really super easy for you and to shake nuts? And they would always say, oh yeah, no, my friend's going to be there anyway.
Well, I actually only read you the first part of the question because it was so long, and the second part was, if you don't have an assistant, exactly what you just said, Hannah, would you ask the client to possibly have somebody else on hand in case the horse becomes maybe a bit of a handful? And of course you can't do that if you're by yourself. But we recently did 2 shoots at some local yards here in Barry with our experience group, and more people came along because they wanted to be photographed. So we had a million assistants, and to be honest, we'd done it as a portfolio shoot, so and for a training exercise. But we absolutely, I think we ended up photographing 5 horses in one yard with their owners, and I think it was 2 in the other yard, which was small, and they will, well, because they've given us their time for free and in training exercise, they're going to get their images, but they would have all spent money, absolutely spent money.
Yeah. And don't lose hope if you can't find an assistant. I've done many a shoot where it's just been me and the client. You just need a bucket by your feet that you can kick.
I've just got a couple more left for you guys. We're getting there. I'm not sure if I'm going to read this right. I'm known within the hunting community for my hunting photography, portraying the landscape along with the camaraderie, if I've pronounced that correctly. How would I target these people for photo shoots?
Okay, so if you're in the hunting community, it's similar to sort of the event market where you're photographing maybe 50 people on a hunt and probably selling them at cheaper prices, right? But the best way to get involved is if you have got someone in that hunting group who you can approach and say, look, I'm starting to do equine portraiture, and I wondered whether you'd be interested in modelling so that I can build my portfolio. You go for the person who you think would be a great influencer on the rest of that hunting market. Go and produce some beautiful images for that person of them and their horse, and then talk to them about helping spread the word throughout the hunting community.
People will buy what they see. They need to take you out of the box of being on the field, taking lots of photos, and put you into a very different box. But you have to physically move yourself from one area to the next.
Yeah.
That's great. Absolutely brilliant advice, and love it. Right, I've got a question for you. Not often that I go to one, but I've got a question for you. Don't run away. It's only it's a quick one. And this is from, as we were chatting earlier. Obviously, I'm in charge of helping out with social media for horses. Where are they? Are they on Instagram? Are they using Facebook? Which you think is more popular?
Personally, because of my target client, you have to figure out who your target client is. So I have got the classic 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old with very nice ponies bought for them by their parents, and the 45 to 60-year-old lady who maybe have got into riding later in life. They are in Instagram. I find I get much more comments, and my blog. So Instagram and blog for me. Emily?
Yes, similar. I think Facebook still has a place. There's lots of equine groups, you know, for example, the New Forest ponies for sale, and Dorset horse,
Dorset question,
you know, all that kind of thing. There's a lot going on in Facebook, and I think it's embedded in more people. But Instagram is still a great place for...
I find my current clients definitely boast and post their images in Instagram and tag, and lots of stories. I think that safety net of it will go away after 24 hours, so they don't constantly look like they're showing off their latest images from a photo shoot. That has a safety net around it, but it does work. I get lots of inquiries through Instagram DMs asking when I'm going to be at a yard again, and they just want to book a shoot.
To be honest, it was kind of what I expected. So but I wanted to hear it from you guys. I thought that Instagram would be the bigger of the two in that area. It definitely is. We do a lot with dog photographers, and Instagram is huge with them. But we've got a few equine photographers in the experience group, and they're heavily on Instagram. But it's interesting that what was interesting there was Hannah, you said that that both age groups are on Instagram, which is interesting, because typically from a normal portraiture marketing point of view, the 25 to 30-year-old is using Instagram, and the 30 plus is the Facebook user.
So I did a bit of research on this, only with my clients, so I can't say I've researched the world, but I researched it, and I found that my clients are either on the older clients are either on Instagram or LinkedIn, not on Facebook.
Yeah, well,
LinkedIn has been really good.
I've definitely found that with the niche areas. So, you know, where you've got obviously the equine, we found it with the dog. I was quite surprised at the older audience for the dog owners on there. And, you know, even boudoir photography and the makeovers, because I have to look at all the different areas for our guys. It was really interesting that how much was actually on Instagram. I obviously thought it was quite a young audience, but realised it actually spans so much. Instagram is absolutely up and coming, so brilliant for that. But I thought I'd ask you guys as you're on the pulse, because I don't know anything about horses. I had a horse sit on my best friend's car once. That's about as close as I got.
Did you take the shot?
No, we were in traffic. We'd stopped because this on a country lane. It literally just stopped next to my friend's new car, sat on the bonnet. And I just looked at Brett in amazement, because I could just see his face. It was Brett, literally that about a week, and there was a lovely horse bum print in his bonnet as the horse walked off. It was fantastic. And my other half is actually petrified of horses. So I remember 2 years ago on a holiday with my youngest stepdaughter. She would have been, I don't know, 9 at the time, I think. She was desperate to go. We were on a campsite that had pony trekking, and she was desperate to go. So Jay was the one who had to walk around. And Mel stood from the chalet, I would say a good 50 meters, just waving and basically saying to me, "That's as close as you're going to get with that horse. Thank you very much." But I don't know what it is. We have horses around us near where we live, but she's just...
Well, you're lucky. That's saving you a lot of money on a horse, keeping horses.
Oh God, yes. No, I haven't got it. We've got 5 dogs. That's enough. That is absolutely enough. Right, brilliant. I think last question, and it is another businessy one. You kind of answered it actually. I hung on to it because I deleted it by accident in the question panel, so I wrote it down very quickly. Is there a bestseller for the horses? Is it frames? Is it albums? But you kind of talked about, you know, going the whole.
Well, we're both different on this. I sell a lot of albums.
I sell a lot of frames.
Yeah. So, and that actually just comes down to probably our preferences on, you know, what we prefer to sell.
Yeah, I do prefer frames, and you do prefer albums.
I love a good album.
I love a good 17 frames.
But what I've loved about the whole thing, as I said to you earlier, and in total agreement with you, you know, print, album, frame, whatever it is absolutely back, and the high end will absolutely have it. So brilliant, guys! Thank you so much. I've had a blast. I've loved having the both of you on with us. It's great, obviously, to have you back. Hopefully, it'll be the first then of many. Let's make sure
Yeah.
things are not.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Jay.